So what if I told you that for $250 you can build a gaming PC capable of playing AAA titles with parts that you can easily find on Facebook, the marketplace, or any other social media selling platform, and it starts with this Optiplex right over here. Let's get to it. So now the Dell Optiplex, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th gen Intels, the 30 series, the 90 series, the 10 series, is probably the most popular OEM PC that people just buy. They're easy to upgrade, as simple as just swapping in a power supply, graphics card, maybe 1 or 2 adapters. Case swapping is very common with it, and they are fairly cheap. Now, as time is progressing, 3rd and 4th gen, they're starting to show its age, and we got to find something new. And now that I'm back into flipping and moving computers again, I got to find a better candidate for my customers. They want cheap budget builds, but they also want computers that are going to probably last them at least another 3 or 4 years, and that's going to be able to play some of the games that are currently out. So it was time to change things up. So our new candidate, this Dell Optiplex 3050, in which I paid $80 for, and these things were released back in 2017. They support Intel 7th gen, and this one is an i5 7500. Our front I/O consists of USB 3, USB 2, and of course our headphone input. In the back, more USB, DisplayPort, HDMI, which we're not going to worry about because we're going to be putting a graphics card in it. We got our Ethernet, along with more sound options. Now to open it up, we got 2 thumb capture screws right over here. They are the Phillips variation. We pop this open, and this is what we're greeted with. This slides open just like so. And now we have all types of rooms to see what we got. So let's talk about some of these specs. So for $80, we don't have too terrible of a platform. So this is what I got. Got a 1 terabyte mechanical hard drive, 8 gigs of DDR4, i5 7500, and that's pretty much it. But let's talk about some upgrade options for this. Now we have a 1 gig stick of DDR4 2400. And this supports up to 32 gigs. And if you wanted to, yes, you could put the whole 3200 megahertz, 3600 megahertz, but it's going to default back down to the 2400 megahertz. Now, as we dive in a little closer, you'll see that we have provisions for M.2 SSD, which is pretty nice and will definitely kind of help with any wire clutter for it. It's PCIe Gen 3. And because I will give this Dell probably the only little bit of respect I have, look how simple it is just to pop it in. No screws, no fuss. I mean, just pop it in and just push it down. Why couldn't motherboard manufacturers? Now, our CPU is the i5 7500, but we can pop in the i7 7700, or we could get a Xeon equivalent, which Xeons tend to be better bang for the buck. They're cheaper, and I mean, the speed negligence is probably about 2 to 5% at most, which you really wouldn't notice. Now we have our PCIe slot right over there, and as you see, we do have plenty of room to put in a double slot card, enough for airflow, but there are some limitations, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. And the biggest limitation that we're going to run into is this power supply, as it's only rated for 240 watts and has no PCIe supplemental power. So it's something to think about. So now with all that being said, it's actually still some good upgrade options for this. And it's fairly simple. So in this video, I'm going to talk about upgrading this thing without doing any cutting, splicing, anything like that. How you could just put in easy components, upgrade it, and get some good gaming performance. Now, as far as upgrades, this is what we're going to do. And this is all stuff that you can buy cheap on eBay, whatever, Newegg, new, old, however you find it. But this is how we're going to do it. And it requires no splicing, no cutting, no power supply upgrades. So for our storage, we're going to pop in a 240 gig SSD to make this our boot drive. That way our 1 terabyte mechanical drive can hold the games. Our memory, it comes with 8 gigs of DDR4. Now all we need to do is for $20, you can buy another 8 gigs of DDR4 2400, pop it in there, and you'll have your dual channel and 16 gigs of memory. Just for the sake that I didn't really feel like buying one of those memory sticks, and I have a bunch of this memory lying around, and I got a little bit of OCD going on. I'm just going to pop in this 16 gig of Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4. You don't have to do this. You can actually buy a 8 gig stick for 20 bucks. So for our graphics card options, we are limited slightly. And the issue that we have is that we have a 240 watt power supply, which is no beans for a lot of these new graphics cards. Don't think you're going to get away with running any of those RTX or fancy ones. But there's still some options that we can still get some good 1080p performance and make a good gaming system out of this. So the best graphics cards that I found for this is going to be the GTX 1650. Has a 75 watt TDP, doesn't require supplemental power, and it pops in very easy. Now, because my 1650 that I ordered from eBay came in dead on arrival, awesome seller, by the way, because they gladly refund it. We're just going to have to use this GTX 750 Ti, which has no supplemental power. It's not too long, just to kind of pretend that I have a 1650 in there. So just let's use our imagination for a little bit. So the 1650 is going to be the best graphics card that you could put in here without changing the power supply. But what if you don't have a 1650, or you got a lower card that's actually better for it? Guys, you got to keep in mind there's a 240 watt rating for this power supply. The CPU is 65, and I tend to like to account for the 10% spikes and surges. So just kind of keep that in mind. Two other options would be a 1060 and a 1050 Ti. A 1060 is rated for 120 watts, and a 1050 Ti is rated for 75 watts. But the issue that you will run into, in the case of this 1050 Ti, one issue is that this is a 6-pin. What am I going to do for power? I will only do this for lower power cards and just staying way within that threshold of the 240, way below it. And what you can do is you can get one of these SATA to 6 pins, pop it in like so. And I've done this now. Don't do this with a 3080 Ti or 3090. Bad things will happen. And this will work. Now, the other issue that you're going to run into is the clearance because of this door or whatever they have it. I guess it's the hard drive cage mounts. You're going to run into some clearance issues on it. I have found, as far as the height, 5.5 inches as far as from where it sits on the PCI port all the way to where it comes out right over here is the max that you'll be able to use. Now this graphics card, because it's an Asus Strix, is a little longer. I think it comes in at about 6 inches if I'm not mistaken. And the problem is that when you pop the graphics card in, it doesn't close. And because it doesn't close, now you can't put your cover in there. So just kind of keep that in mind. The other issue that you will run into is the clearance between the PCI supplemental power and this right over here, this cover. Now the graphics card, it may not have this shroud, it may close, but then what I see is that it's going to start bending and pinching this and probably putting a lot more pressure than you're going to need on it. And over time, this can give. So 5.5 inches is the best that I found to be able to put a PCI in supplemental power. And as far as length, and I'll demonstrate this the best I can with this. If you look, this is like a 10-inch card. You see where it kind of puts me at, and that's even, let's kind of put it right over here. It puts me kind of in line with these SATA right over here. Now, if you're using M.2, it might not be as big of an issue because you could take these out and you won't have that. But I have found if you're going to have to use these for your storage drive, these SATA ports over here, 8.5 inches is probably the best length that would allow you to use those ports and they won't conflict in it. So 8.5 by 5.5 is the recommendation. Anything more, you're cutting it close. If you're gonna go bigger than 8.5, you gotta get rid of these ports. Probably just use an M.2 and not even worry about it, and not even worry about, and you could run the CD-ROM drive over here on SATA 0 right there. So those are my tips. So instead of doing a whole montage and everything, I'm gonna do this just like, so instead of doing a whole boring montage, I'm just going to build it live and just show you exactly how it is and how it's simple. So this is our graphics card. We're going to pretend this is the 1650. The 1650 will be less than 8.5 inches or right at it. And all we're going to do is we're just going to pop it right over here. And these graphics cards don't require PCI supplemental if you're using the 1650 or this 750 Ti. And they actually have some 1050 Ti's that don't require supplemental. They just tend to be a little more expensive. Just slide it up. Graphics card is installed. Now our memory, all we would do is just add another stick, but considering the fact that my OCD might kick in, I'm just going to go ahead and pop in the memory just like so. Now this memory is rated at 3200 megahertz speed, but like I said, all it's going to do is default to the 2400. Now right over here, this would actually be a good time to change the thermal paste. There's 4 Phillips screws, pop this out, put fresh thermal paste. I actually went ahead and did it earlier just to save time, and I was actually testing this to make sure that it worked when I got it from eBay. Our solid state drive, all I'm gonna do is just pop this in loosely. You can screw it down somehow. I think it's missing the mounts or whatever it is. Guys, double-sided tape works fantastic, and that's what I use to mount these SSDs, especially when they don't have the drive cage, or in this case, whatever tool it is to mount it there. But all I have to do is just slide it right in here, tuck in this wire. I could put the double-sided tape right over here to keep it tucked against it, but it's fine for now. And if we wanted to, it would cost maybe a little more money. We could pop in an M.2 over here, but I'm not worried about that. I have 1 terabyte of storage for the mechanical drive. I have 256 for my solid state. So now pop this in. I just upgraded this computer and it's ready to game. So let's fire it up. So now, because we upgraded the memory, it's going to give us an alert. The amount of system memory has changed. You'll also get that alert if you change the CPU on that. All we got to do is press continue. And it's good to go. So now I've already installed Windows on this. If you guys need a video on how to install Windows on this, I'll actually post a link to a good friend of mine. He actually does a really good in-depth video, Tech 215, on how to get a copy of Windows, install it, and get you situated. All right, so for our first game, this is Fortnite. As I use this for the standard, because like I've said in many videos, when I sell a computer, the first question I ask is, what is the FPSs on Fortnite and how well does it play? Well, we're utilizing our 750 Ti, and as you can see, our GPU utilization is mostly pegging at 100%, 97, lows of 93, CPU is about 50 to 60, just depending where we're at. But considering it's running pretty decent. 1080p, medium settings, we're averaging anywhere from 60 to 7 frames per second, and it runs fantastic. Now, if we had the 1650 in there, and hopefully I should get one in the next week or two, this will definitely make this a better gaming experience, and we should be able to play at 1080p high settings and be more consistent on the higher frame rates compared to our medium settings. Now, we could sit here and benchmark all these games, Tomb Raider, Fortnite, Battlefield, and I think Grand Theft Auto is another one that I tend to use. But the whole point of this video is not to showcase the 750 Ti, is to showcase this Optiplex 3050 for 80 bucks and how that with a couple of dollars here and there we were able to upgrade it and make it a very good 1080p gaming computer. Now with the 1650, I know Fortnite will play 100 plus frames per second, and a lot of other games will at least give you close to 60 frames per second, but unfortunately still gotta wait until I'm able to get one in there. But the point of this video is to show you that without any modding, cutting, splicing, or expensive upgrades, we could pop in something like a 1650, upgrade the memory, an SSD, and we're able to play these games with solid performance. And to recap on the price, I paid $80 for this for the 3050, paid $120 for the 1650, along with $20 for the SSD, $20 for the memory. So we're roughly into this thing $240, and probably if you shop around, especially on these used marketplaces outside of eBay, you probably could get this computer built for $200, and for 1080p performance for $200, that's actually a great deal. And if there's one takeaway that I do want you to take from this computer, is that anybody can do this. And as you saw, I was able to pop in the graphics cards and everything right there in front of you, how simple, how easy it is, and was gaming in probably less than an hour. So you may be asking yourself, well, what's next? I can't upgrade my power supply, I can't upgrade my graphics card because of the limitations of this. Well, despite this small, unique, proprietary size that Dell came up with this Optiplex, there's still some great options. And if you definitely subscribe and hit the notification button, and please like this video, in part 2 I'm going to be doing some modding on this and show you how we could put a better power supply in here, possibly an RTX 3050, 3060, some different memory options, peg this out to an i7 7700, and also overcome some of the heating issues that you're going to have with this small little case. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not. Definitely stay tuned for part 2, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.